Hello, my name is Jen Gennerman, Instructional Data Specialist for the School District of Waukesha. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on assessments in regards to the early reading readiness requirements from the state, as well as the progress monitoring assessments used throughout our system. Let's start with the early reading readiness. State statute requires each pupil enrolled in four-year-old kindergarten through second grade in the school district or a charter school to be annually assessed for reading readiness. This assessment is required to evaluate the student's phonemic awareness and letter sound knowledge. Initially, when this requirement came out in 2012-13 school year, the state required the use of the PALS assessment. The PALS is short for the Phonological Awareness Literacy Screening Assessment. Shortly after this requirement was made, the next school year in 2013-14, the School District of Waukesha created an accompanying assessment that was created for Spanish screening assessment for students in 4K, since the Spanish version on PALS was not available at the time. Since then, we've used both of these assessments throughout our system to assess early reading readiness. Over time, districts across the state were given the opportunity to select an assessment in which several, including the School District of Waukesha, decided to continue with a PALS assessment. Many chose to continue with this paper pencil assessment that focused on phonological awareness, alphabet recognition, knowledge of letter sounds, and the concepts of words. In September 6th of 2022, at the start of this school year, the elementary teaching and learning director had shared how we use the PALS assessment along with the MAP assessment to assess early reading readiness. Here you can see that the PALS assessment is paper pencil and it's given in individual and small groups. What we found out this school year was that PALS was being retired and would no longer be available as an assessment beyond the 2023 school year. The assessment and data team is one of our project teams that guides the work in the area of equitable multi-level systems of support throughout our district. The team meets 1 to 2 times a month and has specific deliverables that they are working on addressing. With the news that PALS was retiring in spring of this school year, the team had now had a new deliverable and a timeline that needed to be met. At our in-person teaching and learning committee meeting, I will have an additional team member here from the assessment and data team to share a little bit more about our work that we did, as well as a few details about the assessment. The team had a few fence posts that guided the work to find an early reading readiness assessment. First and foremost, the assessment needed to be of high quality and be able to be a proven valid and reliable informational source for student reading. We wanted the assessment to also offer assessments in English and Spanish, because as shared earlier, we had created one for Spanish, and we wanted to make sure that this was on the forefront of our decision making as we move forward. We felt it would be a bonus if, in looking at additional assessments, that we could reduce the number of assessment systems and possibly reduce the number of assessments for our students throughout the system. In the process, we viewed what other districts are using. We researched a variety of assessments that are available. We completed an in-depth look of the assessment and the system itself, and we were ready to make a recommendation. The 3 assessments we researched, one of the assessments rose to be best in class and offered English and Spanish and allowed us to reduce the systems. With the support of the teaching and learning team, we will be moving forward with the use of FastBridge assessments for next school year. These assessments will be given in 4K through 3rd grade in the area of early reading readiness or literacy. The FastBridge assessment system offers a variety of assessments, and I will share specifically about 3 assessments that would assist us in meeting the state statute requirements. First is the early reading assessment. It has 14 subtests in English and 12 in Spanish, and it assesses phonological awareness and other early reading skills. While there are several subtests available, for our screening purposes moving forward, we would use 4 of the early reading subtests. They would be the concepts of print, onset sounds, letter names, and letter sounds. These assessments are similar to PALS in that they are paper pencil and given with a teacher and student. They take approximately 1 to 2 minutes per subtest per student. Beyond early reading, but still in early elementary level, there is a computer adaptive assessment that assesses the broad reading skills and a curriculum-based measure that assesses reading fluency. The A reading, the computer adaptive assessment, is very similar to the MAP assessment that is given for our students currently in upper elementary, as well as middle school and early high school in the area of reading. The curriculum-based measure, or CBM Reading English, assesses reading fluency. That is given with a teacher and student, with a student reading out loud. Currently, we do other running records to assess student fluency. Like I said, there are a variety of other assessments used, but we'll primarily focus on these 3 for our early reading readiness assessment requirements. So what will it look like in the next school year? Currently, we have 4K to first grade students using the PALS assessment, and students in second and third grade for the area of literacy are using the MAP assessment, that computer adaptive assessment. 2 different assessment systems. Moving forward, we will use the FastBridge assessment system for all students in grades 4K through third grade. We'll use a variety of reading assessments to make sure that we are using the most appropriate assessments to assess the student's reading level, since it changes so much in those early years. Here you can see we'll use the FastBridge early reading assessment for 4K to first grade for 4K and first grade students. In second and third grade, we will use the A reading, which is very similar to what we're doing with MAP right now. We also have the option to use that standardized fluency assessment or that curriculum-based measure in reading for English. I want to point out that one of the conversation points for the team was including the third grade students to take the FastBridge assessment. Since switching to FastBridge, it allowed us an opportunity to have one data system to look at our student performance. We felt that this would be critical in our work around our third grade KPI, which is focused on increasing student reading performance in the area of English language arts. Let's pause there and switch over to intervention and progress monitoring. For students in intervention, we always have to have a standardized screening assessment tool that we use. It could be FastBridge, PALS, MAP, any one of these in the past have served as that screening tool. Oftentimes, we use that screening tool along with teacher information to determine if students will be provided additional intervention instruction. Students who receive intervention services are of the greatest need throughout the district. Once a student is in intervention, their progress is monitored with a standardized grade level assessment. At times, this information is used when determining if a child qualifies for special education services or not. Currently, we are using Ames Web assessments for our progress monitoring for students in the area of reading and math for structured interventions. In those earlier grades, you would see that a student would take the PALS assessment, and then if they are considered for intervention and in intervention, they would take the Ames Web Progress Monitoring assessments. As we move forward with a FastBridge assessment, we have the opportunity to reduce the number of assessments for students, but still having valid and reliable data to make the best decisions for students. As you can see here, for the 2023-24 school year, we'll move forward with the use of the FastBridge assessments for progress monitoring. What that means for a student when they're considered for intervention, they will now take the FastBridge reading screeners. If they do go to intervention, they do not need to take an additional assessment that is offered from AimsWeb to serve as their baseline for their progress monitoring. So now they will just be able to take the screener in FastBridge and they will be able to move right into progress monitoring without an additional data set. This progress monitoring, again, is used if students are considered for special education eligibility, and it's also used to monitor the student progress of the intervention and to consider if the student could be exited from intervention or should continue in the intervention. With moving forward with FastBridge assessments, there are three major bonuses that are the end result of the work of the team of finding a different assessment to meet those early reading readiness requirements from the state. So in moving forward with FastBridge, one, our students will benefit from the reduction of assessments for those who are considered for intervention. The second piece is that we will have a reduction in the amount of assessment systems, going from PALS, MAP, and AimsWeb. We will be able to reduce to just using AimsWeb or just reducing to using FastBridge in the area of literacy for those early grade levels. And third, we will also have a budget reduction. Since many of these systems have a licensing fee that is per student, anywhere from $6.75 to sometimes $13 or more per student, we'll be able to reduce our financial commitment to different assessment systems. Part of the reason we'll have such an additional budget reduction in this area is that for FastBridge, when you're purchasing one license for a student, it includes not only the screening assessments, but all progress monitoring tools for that student. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about our next steps. Well, the team has done an amazing job of finding a new early reading assessment, and it's important that we continue this work to determine how next year will look. We're working on a communication plan and communicating out this information to all staff that will be impacted. That implementation plan is going to include professional development, but also other things like system setup. One of our other next steps is making sure that we have our assessment calendar completed prior to next year, and we're getting feedback along the way to ensure that everyone's ready for this change in assessments. While there's still work to be done, I can't move forward without thanking our assessment and data team. They've put countless hours and investigation into different assessments, and I truly wouldn't be here sharing information about this change without the work of the team. As you can see, we have team members that are representing different positions across the district. These people often go out, talk to their teacher teams, get feedback along the way, and then we come back as a group. So as we move forward, thank you to the EMLSS Assessment and Data Team.